Alright, welcome. So this video is going to be starting a new series, which is probably going to be the primary thing I'm doing for the next couple weeks or however long it takes to do this. And essentially what I'm going to be doing is taking the sprites of Pokemon, and in this video it's going to specifically be Kanto Pokemon, and I'm going to take the first evolutions of the evolution lines and then make the rest of the evolution lines have the same colors as their pre-evolutions to make the evolution lines match more and look more cohesive, because some Pokemon just randomly change color schemes drastically when they evolve. So this is just, like I said, fixing them in a way. So to get right into it, we're starting with Ivysaur and Venusaur. And another thing I should say is that obviously any Pokemon that don't have evolution lines, like for example in this generation Tauros, it's not here obviously because there's nothing to work off of, and also Pokemon that barely change color when they evolve, like Diglett into Dugtrio, since it's just a copy and paste, not doing that either. Anyway, nothing too special really happened here with Ivysaur and Venusaur. It was mainly just changing their flowers to green instead of red, which doesn't look too bad honestly. But that's honestly all there really is to say. As for the Charizard line, they just look a little more basic than usual, but nothing else too notable. And then for the Squirtle line, it's pretty much the same thing as well. Honestly, I shouldn't have even included this one. I only did just because, you know, it's the starter and it's important, so I might as well include it. And then for the Beedrill line, I excluded Kakuna because it's just a solid color, so there wasn't really much to do with it. But Beedrill here did get a bit of a change. I made its antennas and legs red because that's what Weedle's little nubs are, and then its rings are brown now. Aside from that, there's not really much different, but honestly, even though this is a subtle difference, I do think it looks pretty good. Then the same thing for Butterfree here, I excluded Metapod. This doesn't look bad, honestly, and it also works to make it look like it shouldn't evolve from Venonat and actually evolves from Caterpie and Metapod. This kind of gives it more of like a monarch butterfly type of color scheme, not for the green, but for the warmer colors of the wings, and I got those colors from Caterpie's little horn, which I also gave to the antennas here. Then for Sandslash, really not much changed except for the fact that I made the little brown spikes yellow because Sandshrew does not have any brown features on it. It's just all yellow aside from its tan portions. Then Pikachu and Raichu. Pikachu really didn't change much. I only included it because, you know, it's Pikachu, so I guess it has to be here. Raichu, though, is a bit different because a lot of the brown became black because Pichu obviously has those colors. And that's another thing I have to point out. Any Pokemon that are from Gen 1 but receive cross-gen evolutions, whether it be pre-evolutions like Pichu or later evolutions like Annihilape for Primeape, for example, I'm including that as part of this. So that's why these are getting the color scheme of Pichu instead of just Pikachu. Then for Pidgeotto and Pidgeot, they don't look that bad. Obviously giving them the brown neutral colors makes them look a little more just basic in design compared to having that yellow and red, but it still looks pretty cool because obviously Pidgey does not have those colors. Then Arbok. This didn't come out exactly as good as I wanted it to, but I tried to incorporate the little yellow rattle tail that Ekans has, but then Arbok suddenly doesn't have, so that's why I made the tip of it yellow. And aside from that, not too much is different. Eradicate here is obviously a big change because it goes from a purple rat to just a basic brown rat for no reason, so I personally think it looks a lot better keeping the purple color because that's kind of the main thing the Rattata line has going for it that separates it from just looking like a basic animal. Then here's Nidorina and Nidoqueen. Honestly, I like this more than the normal ones, especially Nidoqueen. Something about it makes it look like a lot more royal and like metallic, which fits because, you know, it's Queen. And then here's Ninetales. I honestly like this more than the regular one because, you know, it's a fire type, so keeping Vulpix's colors kind of fits that better than the yellow that it regularly has. Like this looks a lot more fiery than usual. Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff, obviously here I'm using Igglybuff's colors. The only difference is that they look like they're on something. Yeah. Moving on, we've got the whole Gloom line. Obviously, I'm incorporating Oddish's colors, so they all have green plant portions now, but I also incorporated some red, which I took from Oddish's eyes so that they weren't just fully green for the plant portions. Honestly, I don't hate this. It looks pretty good, honestly. Moving on, we've got Crobat, which obviously is just an inversion of its color palette because regular Crobat is an inversion color palette of its pre-evolutions, so this is just making it match, which is honestly kind of how it should be, because this certainly doesn't look bad. Then we've got Parasect, which I wouldn't have included because it's pretty much the same. However, I did change the eyes to look a little more sentient, which technically doesn't make sense because the whole point is that Parasect gets like infected and corrupted, but this just looks more cute. Then we've got Venomoth. It looks a little wacky, but I tried my best to make it look like it actually evolves more from Venonat, which also goes with the Butterfree from earlier because, you know, there's that whole controversy with how they just don't fit their evolution lines. Then we've got Golduck, which, you know, the fact that this isn't regular Golduck, or at least it's shiny, is just pitiful because it has gold in its name and it evolves from a yellow duck. So I'll never figure out why they didn't do this. Anyway, here's Machoke and Machamp. The main thing that I really changed was obviously just giving them like the blue of Machop, but for Machamp specifically, I colored its lips so that they just kind of like merge with the rest of its face color because Machop just has a solid colored face and not the random lips that Machamp gets. Looks a little weird, but it had to be done to make the color palettes match. And also you're going to notice, especially from Machamp here, some of these sprites, I was doing this all in Photoshop, so when I erased their background with like the automatic eraser tool, it took out some of the dark pixels from their sprites, so they just have random like portions of their bodies cleaved out, so pretend that's not there, I guess. Alright, I just had to take 2 takes out because the first time I had a voice crack and the second time my cat was scratching something next to me. So anyway, here's Politoed. This obviously looks a lot better because the whole rest of its evolution line, all 3 other members, are blue, and then it's randomly green. And I guess it makes sense because, if I'm not mistaken, Poliwrath is still considered like a tadpole in the Pokédex, and then Politoed is the only actual frog. So I guess it makes sense that it's a different color, but still, this honestly looks better. Then we've got Annihilape, and obviously there's no pixel sprite of Annihilape, so I just used the official artwork for it instead, which I've actually already gotten started on the Johto Pokemon, and you're going to see when that video comes out. I stopped doing the sprites, and starting with the Johto video, it's just all going to be the official artworks instead, because it looks better, I realized. But of course I did that after I did the majority of the Kanto Pokemon as sprites, so oops. Anyway, obviously, this is at least an evolution line that makes sense to change color because it becomes a ghost. But still, it looks decent with the regular, like, fur colors. Then we've got Golem, which just looks bad, obviously, with that solid color. Even though Geodude and Golem have the solid color, Golem kind of benefits from being multicolored. Then Magnezone, looks a little goofy, but at the same time, the color palette isn't the worst. I also tried to minimize its eye shape and just make it entirely black for the pupil to match its pre-evolutions more. Aside from that, there's not really much to point out. Then we've got Dodrio. Not much really changes. This is one that looks worse than it usually does because there's less colors, but oh well. Then we've got Cloyster. All I really changed was giving its inner layer red to match Shelter's tongue. This looks a little wacky, so I'm just gonna move on. Then we've got Electrode, which, yikes. Obviously it's just an inversion of its color, like flip them over. This makes me kind of appreciate Electrode for having white on the top, because this looks even worse. Then we've got the Hitmon line. I just called it the Hitmon line. This might be the most, like, erratic evolution line in the entire series. Like, not a single one of these dudes looks remotely similar, and they've all got different color palettes. But giving them all Tyrogue's color palettes, which is just like randomly purple, but then they all become more neutral colors, these honestly look really cool, especially Hitmonchan with that purple and red. Hitmonlee also looks decent. Hitmontop looks fine as well. I shouldn't have changed its eye colors to like inverted. I don't know why I did that. I guess I did that because Hitmontop's eyes are black with white pupils, but then Tyrogue's are white with black pupils, so I was trying to match that better, but it doesn't look good. Still, the rest of the colors look good on it, but just not the eyes. Anyway, moving on, we've got Hypno here. The only thing that really changes is making its white fur yellow, because Drowsy doesn't have any white fur, and then its lower half brown, because Drowsy does have some brown fur. This doesn't look too bad, it just looks like he's wearing, like, goofy pants, so I guess it looks a little bad. Anyway, we've got Rhydon, I always forget that thing's name, Rhydon and Rhyperior. Rhydon looks a little worse than usual, mainly just because, like, the horn doesn't have a unique color now, but Rhyperior, honestly, isn't that bad. There's not really much else to say about it, though. Then we've got Seaking. With Goldeen's colors, it looks worse, honestly. So it's honestly a good thing it changes its color palette. This just looks kind of scary. Not like literally scary, but you know what I'm saying. Then here's Starmie. Yeah, this is another one that looks better with its regular colors. The Staryu colors are a lot less popping than Starmie's, but still, I did it anyway. Then we've got Mr. Mime with Mime Jr.'s colors. This just looks a little, like, saturated. So also looks better with its regular colors. Then we've got Scissor and Cleaver. For Cleaver, I obviously use the official artwork instead of the sprite because there is no pixel sprite. Scissor honestly looks pretty cool. Cleaver looks decent, but I mainly like this one for how Scissor came out. These could at least be like their shinies or something, which actually, that literally is Scissor's shiny now that I think about it. It is green. Anyway, here's Jinx. Honestly, I like this more. It makes it look more alive and less like a just disgusting creature, mainly because of the eyes. They look more like innocent and cute, as opposed to Jinx just being a pathetic, worthless insect. No one likes Jinx. Magmortar here with Magby's colors, not Magmar's, and I left Magmar out because the result was pretty similar to regular Magmar. This doesn't change much either. I just made the parts of its body that are normally yellow red to match which parts of Magby's body are red. And I got this, and also its lips are yellow now, like Magby's mouth. Doesn't change much, but I like the regular one more. And then for Electivire, doesn't change too much either, but honestly this isn't bad, mainly because it's pretty similar. And obviously that's Elekid's colors, not Electabuzz's. Then we've got Gyarados, which is, you know, pretty much a shiny Gyarados, but with a few differences. Off the top of my head, I actually can't name what the differences are. But obviously this is Magikarp's colors, not just a shiny Gyarados. So there's some difference, I'm sure. I'll put a picture up. Then here's the entire Evolution family tree, all with the nice brown and tan that Eevee has, so that they look like none of them are unique. And obviously this is one where changing colors randomly upon evolution, I said that really weird, upon evolution makes sense because it's changing type entirely. But still, I did this anyway just to show all of the evolutions with Eevee colors. None of them are too standout, honestly. Although I do kind of like Espeon and Flareon with these colors, mainly because Flareon looks the most like it's just a direct evolution of Eevee, especially with these colors, because it's just like a fluffy dog. And then also here's Sylveon, which I of course use the official artwork for instead of the sprite. And this one also looks pretty decent, honestly. This still honestly looks like it could be a fairy type, because it kind of looks like it's like made out of cookies or something, which a lot of food-based Pokemon, or like dessert-based Pokemon, are fairy type. Anyway, that's all there is, because everything else was just single-stage dudes and legendaries which don't evolve, so that's all there is. As I said, I've already gotten started with the Johto Dex, So that'll obviously be out next week, but for now, this was the Kanto region for this new series. If you like this, consider liking and subscribing and commenting. And if you have any video suggestions that I should make, I'd like to hear them, because one of these days I might run out of ideas, which would suck, but I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching.